Hey y'all, welcome back to Sarah Grace Cookie Company. Today I'm showing you how to make these adorable vegetable canning jar cookies. So I know you have some mason jar cookies laying around the house after Mother's Day. We've all used them to make those pretty Mother's Day bouquets, and you may have some uses for them in like wedding sets and things like that. But I think these are so cute for summer, and they're the perfect cookie to use to get some more use out of that mason jar cutter. So if you like these, just take them as inspiration. You can make exact copies or you can make something completely your own. If you enjoy cookie decorating, like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can have more cookie decorating videos all the time. So we're starting with, like I said, a mason jar cookie. I used my pecan turtle chocolate goodness. It's one of my other videos. I used that flavor for these cookies. I couldn't think of the name of it for a minute. And I'm just taking some piping consistency icing. This is straight out of the mixer, and brushing it on with a paintbrush. Now you always want to make sure that you only use your paintbrushes for cookies and you're not using them for paint or anything. So I'm brushing that on, and I'm making sure to leave a little bit of texture because we're going to paint this later and make it look like the lid of the jar. Now I'm using 20-second consistency icing to outline the jar. We're going to start with white, and then we're going to fill in with our other colors. This first jar that I'm doing has got green beans in it. Now these are very, I guess you'd call it impressionist versions of these vegetables. It's not supposed to look exactly like real life. It's just kind of a cute cookie interpretation. So don't stress about making it perfect. I'm just doing a little bit of white flood around the edge and a little bit up at the top of the jar, just to show that, you know, when you look at a vegetable jar, you see a little bit more room up at the top where the veggies have settled down in the bottom. I'm starting with a few dark green shapes, and then I'm alternating with a lighter green. I did this with all the different colors. I just mixed the darker color and then put in another scoop of fresh from the mixer white icing and mixed it together, then mixed it to that 20-second flood consistency. And that kind of gives me a two-tone shading type look. I like to use that technique a lot when I'm using multiple tones. So I'm going to drop that cookie onto the cookie turntable a couple times just to kind of even out the icing. Then I'm going to take my scribe tool and blend that green into the white that we have around the edges, just to make it look like it's inside the jar. I'm not blending it too much, just a little bit, like I said, to make it look like it's part of that jar. And then blending it in up in the top a bit. This technique where the icing is applied wet on top of wet icing or next to wet icing is called wet on wet. And that's just a way to make your icing all flow together and create one smooth surface, but have multiple colors and create a little bit more of dimension and interesting look. So next we're going to do some tomatoes and some sweet potatoes. Y'all tell me in the comments, what did your grandmothers can? My granny cans tomatoes, and that's what I'm making here in this jar. I added a few little orange dots to show the seeds. I love the way tomato cans look sitting in the windowsill. They're so pretty in the summertime. My Granny Lorraine, my great-grandmother, she cans beets a lot. She cans really good beets. I'm not a big fan of beets, but I've been told they're delicious. I've never really eaten them much because I'm just not a big beet person. But Granny Lorraine cans beets, Granny cans tomatoes, and my husband's grandmother, Miss Fleda May, and his mom make the best canned vegetable soup. We have tons of vegetable soup and green beans from his grandmother in the cabinet, in the pantry at all times, and usually at least once a week, most of the time, we'll have vegetable soup and grilled cheese. It just makes for a really good lunch or supper. So I'm blending this in again. These are going to be the sweet potatoes. I just did that same two-tone theme where it all kind of blends together. Like I said, this isn't supposed to look perfectly realistic. And I'm adding a little bit of white in the bottom to create a catch light so that it looks a little bit more like the glass jar on the outside. And all that's being done while the icing's still wet. Next, I mixed a little bit of gold and silver luster dust together along with some lemon extract. I use lemon extract when I'm painting on luster dust, but you can also use a vodka like Everclear. I just prefer lemon extract because I think I've told y'all several times, I just don't want my granny or my mom all seeing me walking through the Walmart with a bottle of vodka in my hand. So that's my logic for using lemon extract. I also like the flavor it gives it. I can link my luster dust that I like to use in the comments, or in the description, as well. Next, I created some Royal Icing transfer templates using the website Canva. I just went in and searched the word label under elements in that software and found these cute little labels that look like they would go on a mason jar really well. So I'm taking my 20-second consistency icing and I'm flooding this just like I would a normal cookie shape, and then I take my scribe and kind of even it out. I repeat that process with all of these, and when you're doing royal icing transfers, you want to make sure you let them dry overnight or until they are completely and totally dry. You don't want them to have any wet spots at all, because if they do, they might not come off the paper very well. When you're doing royal icing transfers, you can use a page protector like I'm using here. I just printed off my template and slipped it into a page protector that I'd kind of wiped clean and I hadn't used for anything other than cookies. You can also use a sheet of acetate if you have a baking supply store near you or you want to order some online, or some white parchment that you can see through. It's up to you. When making transfers, you can do all kinds of different textures and shapes. You can make flowers to put on cookies later with thick consistency straight out of the mixer icing. You can make smooth transfers like these that I'm making with the 20-second flood consistency. If all of this sounds like gibberish to you, if you're completely new to cookie decorating, you'll probably want to go watch my Cookie Decorating Basics playlist right quick. That way you can kind of get up to speed. Next, I'm using an edible ink marker. These things are so handy to have around, and I'm adding some labels to the labels. Well, writing to the labels. I just did some kind of plain handwriting type font. Just something like how you would write it on a Canon label. And this is after they've dried completely. They've had about 8 to 12 hours to dry before I started writing on them. Next, I'm going to peel my transfer away from the sheet, and I'm going to apply a little bit of thick consistency icing to the back. Now the cookies have dried overnight as well. They've had plenty of time to set up and dry completely on the surface, and I'm just going to very gently press this label onto the cookie. And that has got our canning jar cookie all finished. I'm going to repeat this process with the tomatoes and the sweet potatoes, and we will be all finished. Thank y'all so much for watching today. If you like cookie decorating videos like this, definitely subscribe to my channel. And you can join the Facebook group Cookie Confidence to learn more about cookie decorating. Thank y'all so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.